I would encourage each and every one of you guys to watch a previous video that I did. Not too long ago, we were discussing just the enthusiasm problem that a lot of the mainstream products that, of course, had a lot of success in recent years or the recent decade, it's lacking there, right? The enthusiasm problem is what it is that I called it. And maybe this speaks to it. I'll give you my thoughts here in a bit, but I just want to give some perspective. So the Marvel's early projection, the box office, are 72% worse than Quantumania. Now, keep in mind the context here is that Quantumania didn't perform well, and if I'm not mistaken, it actually lost money. So if it's going to be tracking to be worse than that, then that would mean this would be a catastrophic failure for them. Considering how much they spent, I believe the number comes in over 200 million, if I'm not mistaken. That's not including marketing and other stuff. So that's going to be a tough break for Marvel if that is to be the case. I'm reading this from Screen Rant. It says the latest box office projections for the Marvels indicate a disappointing outlook with an expected domestic opening 50 to 75 million, which is much lower than Captain Marvel's first movie, 153.4 million. Now, look, I want to be clear that it not doing as well as what Captain Marvel did does not mean that it's doing bad or would do bad. That's not at all the case. Considering how well that movie did, why it is, we've argued that a million times as far as the movies that it was sandwiched between and how important that the marketing was just genius around that. So nonetheless, it did perform, well considering the box office numbers. And it can't perform that well. That doesn't mean that it needed to in order to be successful. With that being said, while lackluster box office predictions are becoming more frequent with the MCU, it is unlikely to have a significant impact on the franchise overall success, and that is a cope right there, considering other revenue streams like merchandise and streaming release. Okay, that was never a part of the equation when talking about box office, but apparently it is now. As again, it says it's less than half of the 153.4 million opening for 2019 Captain Marvel. Further adding, the movie's predicted woes pre-sales are down 69% behind the pace of those that sold for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and 72% behind Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Now, again, that's an enthusiasm issue. I will say this. And I get it, it's a pipe dream. People are going to say, dude, that's insane for you to even consider that is a possibility. And that is that the movie, people saw it, and then it started to perform well because of word of mouth and people encouraging family members, friends to go see it, talking about it on social media. It's the best movie ever. Yeah, that could very well happen. That is a possibility, not saying that it's likely, but yeah, that can happen for any movie that can sort of start gaining traction. What we're talking about right here, though, I think does speak to the enthusiasm problem that I had mentioned earlier before, in that people are not seeing the MCU as just in general, as a product that they look forward to seeing. I do think that they've lost their pizzazz, if you will. They don't have the hardcore kind of dedicated guys, Marvel guys, comic guys anyway. And the normies have seemed to kind of shift as far as what their focus is, and maybe they're moving on to the next thing. I don't know. But yeah, you can say that some people are going to blame the whole fatigue thing. I think it is a dog crap fatigue thing in that people, of course, if you're worried so much about quantity over quality, they're going to pick up on that. And yeah, you can't just really serve them anything and just crap out billion-dollar films. It's just not how it works. So while I do see that it's unlikely for that to happen, that it would explode, the fact that it has to do that in the first place and that we're going into it with the box office projections being less than par speaks specifically to the fact that the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as with a lot of other major properties, has an enthusiasm issue. And that's not just pertaining to Hollywood, that's pretty much across the board with entertainment stuff right now that we're seeing. When you have these massive entities like the Marvels, like the DCs of the world, or the Star Wars of the world, where it became more of a chore, or has become more of a chore to keep up with this, as opposed to actually just being enthusiastic about it and really looking forward to it. Up next for the Rippaverse this fall is Alpha Core #1, written by one of the most prolific writers of all time, Chuck Dixon. Penciled by the legendary Joe Bennett. You're not going to want to miss this book. Visit Rippaverse.com to stay up to date and grab ISOM #1 to get caught up on the first appearance of Alpha Core.